Let's shift to something that involves a lot of companies, but you don't hear about it publicly too often. It's about mitigating risk and cybersecurity. And I can't tell you the name of the law firm, but a rather large one here in New York City had skimped. This was a year and a half ago. They had skimped on the protections necessary to prevent hackers from getting in, and they wound up paying a ransom to unlock their computers. I did cover that. So let me start with you, James, on this. This is a very serious issue. We hear about it in the public sphere when city governments and towns are paying ransom because they've been hacked. What is it that you want the middle market business owners who are attending the conference today to know about the need to not go cheap on this one, on cybersecurity?
Yeah, you're exactly right, Adam. And if I had a nickel for the CEOs that I have spoken with that have had breaches, that have had successful phishing attacks, it's a lot more prevalent, I think, than you're hearing about in the news. So what it really begins with, you want a middle market business to have a safety first culture. That's what we really stress to them. And the way you do that is you really need a safety compliance group in place, an organization, meaning people. You need an accountability structure. Who's doing what? Who's doing the checking? If there is a problem, do you have an escalation path? Do you have regular meetings? The question I ask, which is always fun, is to ask a CEO, what is your risk mitigation plan? And he says, oh yeah, we're good on that. We're all set. And you talk to the IT leader and there isn't one. So really having a culture and a plan. And this is at Freeman Clark. We're currently engaged with 2 private equity firms. The first thing they asked us to do was an IT risk assessment. Those were the first 2 things they asked us to do when targeting. These were biotech firms in the Boston area. So obviously PE firms are asking for this when they start to think about acquiring companies.
I saw you nodding your head, Stephen, and I was curious, do I as a business owner face any kind of exposure if somehow I'm hacked and they learn about clients with whom I've done business?
So that'll go back to what's in the purchase and sale agreement with your buyer. So in the old days, the rep used to be, with respect to systems, basically the seller has adequate systems to conduct its business. But now, recently I did a transaction, it was a page and a half on systems and representations and warranties by the seller about its systems. And the import of that is, and we'll talk about it later, is if that rep isn't true, so there's a hack later and it turns out that something you said you had in your system indeed was not the case, there's exposure for the seller.
Let's go to the money side of this. And Sean, over the years, how has this become, if it's become in your eyes, a prominent issue when you come to the table?
It's a huge issue. Unfortunately, most people come to me with it after they've been hacked or after a situation occurs. So if I actually meet with a family business and I go through the checklist and it clearly they have inadequate, for cybersecurity, what I try and do is, use an example like you did. And typically people say, oh, well, that's a big law firm in New York City. It's not good. That's completely different. So I try and find an example or case study within their industry, and that tends to get their attention.
John, have you come to the table and dealt with a firm that was ill-prepared but continued through the process as they got up to speed?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's just to echo what Sean had just said. I think it's a huge issue, and it's something that I think is top of mind for investors. Certainly at Origami, it's something that's top of mind for us, not only at our own organization, but at our portfolio companies as well, because no matter what industry you're investing in, we invest across all industries and across the capital structure, from credit to equity and everything in between. And all organizations and all industries use software and technology to effectively and efficiently manage their organizations. So the cybersecurity, just the security of those systems is important for all businesses, and it's a risk for all investments.
So James, again, this is your expertise. If I come to your firm and I say, we've got this in place, you've assessed I need more, what does the more look like? And is there a dollar figure budget that firms, mid-market firms, should be setting aside for appropriate cybersecurity?
There are numbers, Adam, but really, as I said earlier, it comes down to culture. It comes down to training. If the receptionist clicks on that link that lets the bad guys into your network, that is not, that you can't put a dollar amount on that. So it really comes down to culture and training. And at Freeman Clark, we've got experienced IT leaders that can do that transformational culture. It's not building a bigger firewall. It's educating the people inside the company how to behave, how to protect their systems, what to click on and not click on. That the culture trumps the cost.
Lami, I'm curious. I think CPA when I'm thinking of Anshin, but I would imagine this is an issue that Anshin also covers.
Oh, absolutely. Anshin covers advisory, and cybersecurity falls under that as well. So we can work in conjunction with Freeman Clark, and so we do accounting, tax, and advisory. And I fall under the transaction side of things, working with companies, investors, business owners, and ensuring that they conduct the right diligence. And just kind of walking them through a transaction. So it's something that has come up in recent years, cybersecurity in particular, just because of social media and privacy issues. There's so many regulatory things to consider that we're dealing with it more and more, even on the financial diligence side of things.
You just mentioned social media, so I have to go, and I'm going to go round robin on this one, but I'm going to start with Sean. Social media, a lot of companies have to have a social media footprint as part of their business plan, but you can actually be opening the door to a hacker via Twitter or Instagram. Have you ever experienced that? And from the money side of this, how do you approach the social media footprint? Because that can sometimes lead to the hack.
You approach it very delicately. And also, as with cybersecurity, you approach it from a case study perspective. If someone has a very lax sort of social media platform or what have you with their employees and so forth, you got to tell them about an example that you've come across in the past and just show them sort of the potential liability to it. And that tends to get their attention. John,
would you echo that, or is there another point you'd like to make on it?
No, I mean, the only other point I think I would make is just that from a diligence perspective, not to go back too much, but that's something that I think investors are interested in too, is they're going to check out, your social media presence and also other sites like Glassdoor, in addition to Twitter and Facebook and some of the other ones you mentioned.
And to wrap this up, I should let everyone know, Yahoo, before Verizon owned Yahoo, was the largest hack yet to date, the email, that situation. And as a result of that, we now have incredible security protocols. I have to change my password almost every month. There is two-factor authentication. There are all kinds of things that you never see on your side of it that we who work within the Yahoo universe are constantly doing to keep the hackers out. Let's end this with a legal question to Stephen. You're a year after the sale, everything is concluded, and then you find a weakness had been exploited by a hacker. Do I still have the liability a year later after I've sold?
Well, let's hope not if you're the seller, but you're going to look into your purchase and sale agreement, as well as the buyer is going to look into it and see if there's a claim. So they're going to look carefully at what the representation and warranty is with respect to systems. And so if it turns out that there's a breach, then sure as shooting, there's going to be a claim.
I'm going to say thank you. I appreciate all of you being here. And remember, this is just the first of several in a series that are going to take place this year on private equity. And we look forward to seeing you all again. So I'll see you there.